The call came just as I was wiping my hands off on a rag, closing up a last-minute alternator job. The shop was dead quiet except for the heater clicking behind me. I looked down. Linda. I already knew from the ringtone that something was up. Her voice had that syrupy tone she used whenever she wanted something I wouldn't like. "Mom and I have the cutest idea," she started, which always translated to, "Buckle up, Randall. You're about to be volunteered for something you didn't ask for." I didn't even sit down. "What idea?" "Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from." She said Marjorie, her mom, wanted to host a big, adults-only Christmas Eve dinner at her house. Real plates, real wine, real outfits, just the grown-ups. But with 6 grandkids under 7, they needed someone to stay back with the kids. And by someone, she meant me. "Linda," I said slowly, "you know I booked the cabin months ago. I've had the days off approved since October." She laughed. Not the funny kind, the dismissive kind. "You're flexible, honey. You don't have anything pressing this time of year, right?" Flexible, like I was a damn rubber band. What she meant was, my time didn't count. Not like hers, not like her siblings. I didn't have a real calendar, just my name next to every emergency, every babysitting shift, every holiday patch job when someone else wanted out. 2 weddings, 4 last-minute holidays, a dozen brunches just this once. I was always the easy yes, and she knew it. I didn't argue. I just said, "Let me think about it." She took that as a yes and hung up before I could add another word. I pulled the folded cabin confirmation from my wallet. I'd printed it in September. Check-in, December 22nd. Check-out, December 26th. 4 nights, alone. No screaming, no dishes, no reshuffled plans. I was supposed to spend Christmas on a quiet porch in Red River Gorge with coffee and silence. That was the deal I'd made with myself. And now they were trying to swap it out like I'd never made plans at all. I stared at the paper. If I told them now, they'd find a way to twist it around, make me feel like the selfish one. Again. For the first time, I didn't think about how to make it work. I didn't start running logistics in my head. I just stood there, hand on my keys, and thought, what would happen if I just didn't catch them when they jumped? I didn't text. I didn't call. I folded the paper back up, slid it into my wallet, and locked up the shop. I pulled out my phone and called Cal. Retired lineman, straight shooter, no patience for BS. He answered on the second ring with, "Let me guess, they plugged you into babysitter duty again." I didn't even deny it. I just started listing. There was that night I left a backed-up kitchen sink to shuttle kids between houses. Remember that thunderstorm last April? "Yep," Cal said. "You called me from the driveway cussing." Then there was the photo wall Linda booked me to build. Missed my nephew's baseball opener. Drove 2 hours to her cousin's house to set it up in the wind. "And the Thanksgiving wine tasting," I added. They left me with 4 kids and a cold turkey sandwich while they sampled Pinot. Cal made a sound like he'd bit into glass. "That's 13 unpaid shifts, Randy, minimum." I paused. That number did something to me. I knew it was bad, but hearing it as a count, not just a blur, made my jaw tighten. "You keep letting them set your schedule like you're an Uber nobody tips," he said flat. I didn't argue, couldn't. I opened our family thread to distract myself, started scrolling. Linda had already posted. Randy offered to take the kids both the 24th and 25th so we can focus on hosting. Right under it, clapping hand emojis from Tasha, her sister. Then Greg, her brother, wrote, "Finally get a real night out. Bless you, man." Offered. Nobody asked if I said yes. I stared at the word. Felt my blood warm. Like I'd stood up too fast. I typed out a reply. "Working out my schedule. Will update. Neutral, non-committal." Then I closed the app and reopened the cabin booking page. The screen still showed my reservation. Red River Gorge, 4 nights. Deposit deadline, 9 p.m. tonight. I got up, poured myself half a mug of coffee, came back, and sat down at the kitchen counter. The house was quiet, just the clock ticking and the faint hum from the fridge. I looked at the number again. Not cheap, but fair. Worth it. Worth me. Cal texted, "Pay it. Let 'em babysit each other." I didn't reply, I just stared at the pay in full button like it could read me. And then I hit it. The screen blinked, confirmation loaded, balance 0. For a second, I expected to feel guilt, but nothing came except stillness. Like I'd finally stopped bracing for something that never changed. 15 minutes later, Linda texted. Mom says we should get a group picture before dinner, matching jammies again. Maybe you can pick some up after work. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened the weather app. Red River, light snow, highs in the 30s. Cabin deck faced east. Sunrise, thermos, maybe a book I'd start and actually finish. Back in the group thread, more logistics were flying. Nap schedules, bottle rotations. Greg wanted to bring his dog. Tasha asked if I had room for a pack and play. Still nobody asking if I'd said yes. I poured the rest of the coffee down the sink. This time, I was the one with the plan. The next morning, my phone rang before I'd finished my first sip of coffee. Marjorie. I answered without thinking, and she came through loud and echoing, like she had me on speaker in the middle of an aisle. Randy, be a dear and pick up 6 matching pajamas, she said. Sizes are in the text. You'll be here the 24th by 11. I stood there staring at the sink. I didn't agree to that. She made a little sniff, the kind that meant I was being inconvenient. You don't need to be dramatic. Then she dropped it, clean and sharp. Men your age should be grateful to be needed. That landed hard, like a thumb pressed into a bruise. Needed, not wanted, not asked. Needed, like a spare part you keep in a drawer until something breaks. I didn't raise my voice. I said, I've got plans. And she was already talking over me about pajama colors. I ended the call without saying goodbye and set the phone face down. A few minutes later, Linda texted me a schedule, not a question, a schedule. It read like a military op, nap blocks, snack rotations, photo times with matching outfits, bathroom breaks labeled by age. Right there in bold, primary adult, Randy. Dinner at 7:40 p.m. Grown-ups only. I could already see it, me on the living room floor with crackers crushed into the rug, someone crying because the wrong cup was blue, everyone else dressed nice and posting pictures like they'd pulled off something heroic, again. Before sunrise the next day I packed, rolled the flannels tight, socks inside boots, book slid flat against the side. No overthinking, just movement. I shut the tailgate soft so it wouldn't echo and wake the neighbors. Inside, I set my alarms. One for leaving on the 21st. One for a flight I didn't need. I was driving, but seeing it on the screen made it feel official. And one more, labeled, Don't Talk Yourself Out of It. At lunch, Linda called. I stepped outside the shop so the noise wouldn't give me away. Update? She asked. Still working some things out, I said. Good, she said. Because I already told everyone you're solid. There it was, said like a fact. Like my agreement existed whether I gave it or not. I felt my jaw lock. I didn't yell, I didn't correct her, not yet. I said, I'll let you know before the holiday. She paused, just long enough to hear the edge in it. Okay, she said, but she didn't like it. I hung up and stood there in the cold, phone heavy in my hand. Trucks passed on the road. Somewhere nearby, a kid laughed. Normal life kept moving. I slid the phone into my pocket, turned, and walked back into the shop without saying another word. By the time the sun burned through the trees, I was finally settled on the cabin porch. Frost lined the railing like it had been painted there overnight. My boots were up, resting just enough to catch the edge of the morning light, and a red thermos sat next to me, steam curling slow. The printout with my reservation rested on my knee like a flag I wasn't folding back up. I snapped the photo. No caption, just the truth in pixels. Then I opened a private thread with Linda and typed, Reminder, I'll be out of town the 24th to the 26th. Hope it's a great holiday. I hit send and didn't stare at the screen. I stood up, opened the little stove inside, and lit a fire. Pine bark popped and caught fast. I set the kettle on top and let the weight drop off my shoulders an inch at a time. My phone buzzed. 3 dots. Then a flood. Are you kidding me? We already planned everything. You can't change your mind now. I replied once. Didn't change my mind. I kept my plan. Then I turned the phone face down and sat back with my coffee, both hands around it. The warmth cut through just enough. 15 minutes later, the family thread blew up. 42 messages in under 5 minutes. Wait, Randy's not coming? Linda, you said he promised. So who's watching the kids now? We can't just cancel dinner. I watched it stack. For once, not a single message was aimed at me with guilt or blame. It was like a house of cards collapsing and everyone trying to point fingers while the wind kept blowing. I took a breath, opened the thread, and posted. Love you all, but I'm not the built-in sitter. I told Linda weeks ago I had plans. You'll need to figure something else out. Then I closed it. Didn't linger, didn't explain. I poured more coffee, stoked the fire, and let the cabin creak and settle around me. Let them feel the weight I usually caught before it ever hit the ground. The phone rang while I was lacing my boots. I knew it was Linda before I looked. I answered, and the sound hit me first. Kids squealing, a TV blasting some cartoon theme, overlapping voices like a house with no walls. How could you do this to me? She said. Not us. Me. That told the truth faster than anything else. I kept my voice level, plain as a fence post. I'd stop planning around me without asking. She snapped back quick. This is selfish, Randall. It's family first. You don't just disappear when people are counting on you. I leaned against the counter and watched the flame in the stove jump. I've been putting family first so long I lost track of my own holidays. She scoffed, said I was being dramatic, said everyone makes sacrifices. I started to answer, but the phone shifted, and Marjorie's voice cut in sharp. Randall, you're embarrassing your wife. I didn't flinch. I'm done covering for lies. Silence, the kind that swallows a room. Then a sharp crash, glass or ceramic, and a kid started crying hard. Over it all, Greg's voice floated in, half panicked. Whose turn is it right now? Tasha chimed in, tight and confused. I thought Randy had them at noon. Nobody said my name like an accusation this time. They said it like a missing piece they couldn't replace fast enough. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. You built your evening on an assumption and my time, I said. I'm not footing the bill anymore. Linda started to say my name again, but I ended the call before she could finish it. I stood there for a second, phone heavy in my hand. My hands were shaking, not wild, just enough to notice. I pulled on my jacket, zipped it clean, and stepped outside. The ridge trail started just past the cabin, a narrow line cutting into trees that stood quiet and solid. I walked fast at first, boots crunching over frozen ground, breath coming out sharp. Each step pulled the noise farther away, the TV, the crying, the scramble. Halfway up, my phone buzzed again. I didn't check it. I stopped, took it out, and opened the family thread long enough to post one last line. Going off-grid for a bit. Merry Christmas. No emojis, no explanations, no lecture. Oh, I put the phone on airplane mode, slid it deep into my pocket, and kept walking toward the ridge without looking back. When I came back from the ridge, boots scuffed and breath cooled off. The cell signal kicked back in halfway down the trail. The bars lit up, and the notifications came in like a slot machine jackpot. Group thread, texts, missed calls. I walked into the cabin, poured fresh coffee, sat on the porch rail, and started scrolling like a guy watching a slow-motion wreck. Greg to Linda. You told me it was handled. Tasha to Marjorie. You always assume he'll do it. Linda. He backed out last second. I sipped my coffee, let it sit before I typed, posted receipts. I told you 2 weeks ago. Nobody argued, nobody clapped back. Just a long pause in the chat, like the air finally left the room. And for once, it wasn't me under the spotlight. My not show wasn't a personal failure. It was just poor planning dragged into daylight. Private messages started rolling in. Greg, thumbs up. Tasha, honestly, about time. A cousin I barely heard from. Didn't know you'd even planned a trip. Good for you. It wasn't praise, just clarity. The same people who used to pile on quietly tapped out thumbs up now that someone else was fumbling the bag. Cal texted, "How's the air up there?" I stood up, held the phone over the porch rail, and snapped a shot of my thermos beside the coffee mug, steam rising against the mountain ridge, all folded blues and sharp sky. Sent it back with nothing else. A few minutes later, Linda broke her silence in a private text. "Can you at least come back for the 25th morning? Just that part?" I didn't answer right away. I picked up the cabin key fob from the hook by the door, walked outside, took a picture of it in my palm with the cabin in the background. Then I sent it with one word. No. No fight, no second round. I set my phone to do not disturb, dropped it onto the kitchen counter, and sat in the old armchair near the wood stove. It ticked and settled as the fire caught deeper, slow and warm. Outside, the trees moved soft like water in the wind. I leaned back, let my shoulders drop, and listened. 2 weeks later, the family thread went dead quiet. No Happy New Year from Marjorie. No pictures of cookies or matching pajama shots from Tasha, just silence, like nobody knew how to hit reset after the engine seized. It stayed like that, dry and stiff, until a plain Tuesday afternoon. My phone lit up while I was at the shop sorting invoices. Linda, I picked up. No fire in her voice, just flat honesty. "It was a mess," she said. I waited. "We canceled dinner. Nobody knew who had what kid. Your side of the family started asking why you always end up with all the kids." She paused, then pushed through it. "Greg said we use you because you don't complain. Mom said men your age should step up. My aunt asked why we think your time counts less." I sat back in the office chair and stared at the wall. Hearing it secondhand hit harder than every argument we'd ever had. "I'm sorry it was hard," I said, "but I'm not sorry I wasn't there." I let it land slow. No apology hiding in it. Linda let out a breath like she'd been holding it for days. "I told people you promised." She said it quiet. "I didn't mean to lie," she added. I wanted it to be easy. So I made you the guarantee." I didn't snap. I didn't throw it back at her. I said, "From now on, if you want me to babysit, you ask. If I say no, that's the end of it. If I say yes, you pay me like you'd pay anyone else for 6 kids. She didn't answer right away. I added, "No guilt, no speeches, no family group posts written like I already said. Yes." More quiet. Not the defensive kind, just her taking it in. "You're right," she said finally. "That's fair. I didn't say thank you. I didn't soften the edge. Fair was the floor now, not a gift, not a favor." We stayed on the line a few seconds longer, both of us listening to the static, like maybe it had something to offer. I heard her fridge kick on. She heard a wrench drop in the background. No more playing dumb. No more pretending it was just miscommunication. She'd made a promise with my name on it and handed me the fallout when I didn't show. I was done cleaning it up. There was a pause on the line, long enough for me to hear Linda's fridge hum in the background. A soft click, then nothing. I didn't rush her. I'd said my piece. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. Finally, she said, "Okay, if we ask, we pay." I nodded even though she couldn't see it. The number in my head wasn't petty or spiteful. It was what the work costs when you're responsible for 6 kids, their food, their mess, and their safety. Same as anyone else who does it for a living. "There's one more thing," I said. "Non-negotiable." "Okay. If anyone says I promised something I didn't, I'm out. No warnings next time." She didn't argue. That told me more than words would have. "I already told Mom to stop volunteering you," she said. She didn't like it. I almost laughed but didn't. I figured. "She said she was only trying to keep everything nice," Linda added. Then her voice dropped, quiet and honest. "I think we confuse nice with controlled." That one sat heavy between us. Not ugly, just true. "I'll come to family things when I choose to be there," I said. "Not to play unpaid staff, not as the backup plan. I want you there as my husband," she said. "Not as coverage." It wasn't an apology wrapped in bows, but it wasn't nothing. It was a reset. We ended the call without promises, which was exactly right. A week later, my phone buzzed while I was flipping through mail at the counter. Tasha. Thinking of a backyard barbecue in April. No babysitting, just hanging out. You in? I read it twice. No time blocks, no assignments, no assumption baked into the ask. It sounded like an invitation, not a schedule. I typed back, "Yeah, I'm in." Not because I was scared to say no, because I wanted to say yes. I wanted a paper plate with a burger sliding off it, a folding chair by the fence, someone else chasing their own kids. I wanted to leave when I felt like it, not when the last diaper was changed. Later that night, I wrote the date on the calendar in pen, no notes, no reminders, just the day. I shut the calendar, turned off the kitchen light, and went to bed without setting an alarm for anyone else's plan. Folks expect fireworks when you finally draw a line. Truth is, it felt more like turning off a faucet I'd left running for years. No bang, just peace. The house got quieter. My weekend stopped dissolving every time someone else's plan caved in. I had whole Sundays where nobody texted "quick favor" or dropped a guilt trip wrapped in emojis. Was it revenge? A little. Not loud revenge. Just cause and effect finally catching up. Letting people feel the weight I'd been shouldering without a sound. Missed reservations, soggy car seats, the tiny decisions that keep 6 kids from melting the drywall. At the next family thing, a Memorial Day cookout, Marjorie cornered me by the potato salad. White slacks, fake pearls, plastic spoon in hand. She didn't apologize. Not exactly. She said, "I didn't realize how much we leaned on you." I nodded once. I did. Then I walked away and flipped brats with Greg, who, funny enough, offered to take his own kids to the park after they ate. No prompting. Just did it. Linda and I still had rough talks sometimes, but no more scripts, no setups where I got cast last minute as the help. She asks now. Sometimes I say yes. I send an hourly rate like it's nothing, because it is nothing. Normal, expected. Just the going rate for labor, not a favor masked as family time. Sometimes I say no, and I go fishing, and the sky doesn't fall either way. Christmas next time, maybe I'll sit under a string of cheap lights, a baby asleep on my shoulder, watching a tired mom finally eat a hot plate. Not because they expect it, because I chose it. Or maybe I'll drink black coffee on a cold deck and watch the fog lift off a ridge while everyone else scrambles back home. Text a simple "Merry Christmas" and leave it there. No explaining, no slotting myself in. The people who used to call me so reliable finally learned that reliable isn't the same thing as available for free, and that was the point. Not to hurt them, not to shame anybody, to make it honest. I didn't need applause. I didn't need a parade. I just needed them to stop assuming I'd carry it all. And they did, because I let one holiday collapse instead of holding it up with my back.